Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Tonight, the future of First Arena and the Elmira Enforcers hockey team is in question. The lease for the arena just expired. Big Fox's Matt Kleindens tells us what's next for the facility.
Good evening, and after a years-long saga, Elmira Enforcers owner Robbie Nichols is out of First Arena. Now Chemung County is looking for a new tenant to the building.
Well, it's been very tough.
In an emotional Facebook post, Robbie Nichols and his wife said goodbye to First Arena. Nichols was the operator for the downtown arena for 3 years, but after failed attempts to meet with the Chemung County Industrial Development Agency, his lease expired Friday.
I was trying to meet with the CCIDA to renew a lease or do a purchase of the arena, and they really didn't meet with me at all or want to meet with me, and so the lease is expired.
Nichols was on a year-to-year lease with the county IDA and had it renewed twice prior to its expiration. He said he put a lot of time and money to revitalize the arena.
When I took over the arena, it could not make ice. The roof was leaking. It was in desperate repair. We fixed all that on our own dime. We're never paid back like we were supposed to.
Nichols says the future of the arena is now in the hands of the IDA. We reached out to the IDA to ask about the decision, but they did not return our calls. In a statement, the IDA says they will take over ownership of the building until a new tenant moves in. Robbie Nichols says he's proud of all the events First Arena was able to bring to Elmira.
We brought a lot of great events from WWE, ice racing, wine and beer festival, and it goes on and on. Hopefully, the arena keeps on bringing great events.
Matt Kleindens, Big Fox, WYDC in Corning.
Corning Community College students will be able to get vaccinated before the start of the fall semester. CCC is holding a vaccine clinic next month at its Health Education Center. Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson vaccines will be available to anyone who works or goes to school in New York. Officials say it's an opportunity for students to get protection before the school year. The clinic will be held on August 4th from 10 until 2. Guthrie is warning residents of a new caller ID scam. According to the Health Network, people have been getting phone calls that show the Guthrie Clinic on the caller ID. The scammers then try to collect credit card information by telling people they're owed a refund for overpaying on services. Guthrie says legitimate phone calls are made by their financial counselors and patient representatives. Residents who receive scam calls are asked to call police. Police were not happy when they saw food that a DoorDash driver brought them had a note with a profane message on it. Then they also saw a video which allegedly showed the driver sticking his finger in the food. And that was enough to get him arrested. Alice Gaynor has the story.
Did you put something in the food?
Definitely didn't. It was a prank. They don't got no note.
Lance Lane was walked out of the 61st precinct Thursday night. He was arrested for allegedly doing this. From an account he confirmed was his, a video reportedly shows the DoorDash delivery man putting his fingers and this note into the food. We've blurred part of it. It reads, quote, "Hope that blank tastes good," expletive. He dropped off the food at the precinct Monday.
It was a prank that went out of hand. They don't got no note, no nothing.
The 30-year-old insisted the precinct was not a target, actually rolling the window down to keep talking to reporters.
I got nothing against them.
Lane was out on parole for the 2011 attempted murder of an NYPD officer and has 7 prior arrests.
Nothing against them. It was a prank. They know that.
In a statement, DoorDash called the behavior unacceptable, adding in part, "We have deactivated the Dasher, reached out to the customer involved, and stand ready to support law enforcement."
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo expected to be questioned Saturday by members of the New York State Attorney General's office. It is related to their investigation into sexual harassment charges against him. That is according to a source familiar with the investigation. The interview with Cuomo signals the investigation may be nearing its final stages, but there remains no timeline on when the AG report is expected to be released. A senior advisor to Cuomo released a statement on Thursday saying in part, quote, "The continued leaks are more evidence of the transparent political motivation of the Attorney General's review." New York taxpayers are footing a hefty bill for Governor Andrew Cuomo's legal issues. According to public data, taxpayers have contributed more than $755,000 in his defense against a federal inquiry. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Brooklyn and the FBI are investigating Cuomo and his executive chamber for how they handled some data surrounding COVID-19 deaths in New York nursing homes. Cuomo's office hired the law firm Morvillo, Abramowitz, Grand, Iacen, and Anello on a $2.5 million contract. That means expenses and disbursements can't exceed that amount without additional approval by the state comptroller. A massive sinkhole opening up on a New York City street. This was the scene Thursday morning on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. The hole, about 20 feet deep and 15 feet wide, stretched all the way to the sidewalk. Water was temporarily shut off while crews excavated the area to examine the underground infrastructure. It is the second sinkhole to form in NYC this week. Another one opened up on the Upper West Side on Sunday. The Biden administration is working with Facebook to flag posts that spread disinformation about COVID-19, but critics say the act infringes on free speech. Madeline Rivera in Washington with reaction to the initiative.
In his first formal advisory, Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy denounces health misinformation, particularly about COVID-19, as a serious threat to public health.
2/3 of people who are not vaccinated either believe common myths about the COVID-19 vaccine or think some of those myths might be true.
Murthy now calling on tech companies like Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter to step up when it comes to monitoring misleading content. The White House adding that they've
increased disinformation research and tracking within the Surgeon General's office. We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation.
Many Republicans are sounding the alarms, saying the coordination between the government and a private company like Facebook is problematic and even teeters on censorship.
To have these monopoly companies acting in concert with the government to say you can say this, you can't say that, we're going to decide, that is just antithetical to the First Amendment of the United States.
Facebook says in response to the administration's disinformation campaign, we permanently ban pages, groups, and accounts that repeatedly break our rules on COVID misinfo, and this includes more than a dozen pages, groups, and accounts from some of the individuals referenced in the press briefing. The Surgeon General warning comes as vaccination rates continue to drop nationwide. Some places like LA County now reinstating mask mandates as COVID-19 cases rise. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
If you missed out on the ultra-low mortgage rates earlier this year, you may have another chance. Rates are falling again, and the downward slide could pull some wary buyers back into the market with low rates. The average interest rate on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage fell to 2.88%. That is the lowest since mid-February and the third consecutive weekly drop. The 15-year fixed-rate mortgage dropped to 2.22%. Economic experts say the favorable rates will help offset rising home prices. But affordability will remain a challenge for many first-time buyers, as the monthly payment for the typical home is still $116 higher this week than a year ago. Protests in Cuba have gotten the world's attention, and now some liberals and conservatives are putting pressure on the Biden administration to step up its response. Caroline Shively has more from Washington.
Anti-Cuban government protesters hit the streets in and around Miami for a fifth day on Thursday. Following historic protests in Havana earlier this week, the biggest anti-government demonstrations in 3 decades. Cubans say they are running out of medicine and food in the midst of an economic crisis. Thursday night, President Biden criticized the regime.
Cuba is unfortunately, a failed state in repressing their citizens.
And sanctions against the Cuban government remain in place, but some Democratic lawmakers say those sanctions are part of the problem.
The U.S. embargo is absurdly cruel. And like other U.S. policies, particularly other U.S. policies targeting Latin Americans and Latinos, the cruelty is the point.
Conservatives put the blame on an ill-equipped communist government that can't handle a pandemic, and they say liberals need to accept reality.
There doesn't seem to be a way to convince them that the regime in Cuba is even a dictatorship.
The streets of Havana were much quieter on Friday, but activists in Florida are calling on the people of Cuba to take action.
Now is the time to resign from the Communist Party, from the Communist Youth, from the Communist labor unions that represent no one.
The Cuban government blocked internet access for its people from Sunday to Wednesday. Florida's governor now says the U.S. should consider giant high-altitude balloons to provide Wi-Fi hotspots. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
The Eiffel Tower reopened its doors on Friday. While the French government started introducing rules aimed to curb the spread of the Delta COVID variant, many were thrilled to return to the beautiful site on reopening day. The director at the Eiffel Tower could hardly contain his excitement as reopening day finally arrived. He even noted the attraction was bringing in a higher number of foreign tourists than usual.
Before COVID, it was 80% foreigners, 20% French. Last year, it was 80% French, 20% foreigners, and this year it's amazing because it's 50-50, and for us it's the sign that the foreigners are coming back at the Eiffel Tower, and we in our forecast we think that we will have more visitors compared to last year.
The Eiffel Tower had been closed for more than 8 months due to the coronavirus pandemic. Check it out, goats galore in a New York park on Thursday. The Riverside Park Conservancy calls it the running of the goats. But it's not just for fun. These goats help keep the weeds at bay by eating invasive species like vines. Goats have the ability to eat 25% of their body weight in vegetation. 5 of them will stay in the park all summer to keep it clean. The Conservancy says the goats will be campaigning to be the GOAT. The president and the CEO of the Conservancy saying they encourage New Yorkers to meet the fabulous 5 in person and vote for their favorite. Still ahead, meteorologist Kim Walker checks in on your forecast for the weekend. Stay with us.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Tonight's Big Fox forecast is brought to you by William Mattar. Good evening, everyone. We were a lot cooler today as a result of being socked in with a lot of cloud cover. Quite a dreary day and a little bit of rain to go around as well. We have a flash flood watch in effect from now through the end of the day on Saturday. And we are expecting periods of drenching rain, downpours with rainfall rates of around 2 inches per hour, and that's why we expect some flash flooding across many of our hometowns. So just be careful if you're going to be driving in the next 24 hours. So a lot of rain to go around. This comes as a low pressure system will be moving from the Great Lakes region right over the Twin Tiers, and so the heaviest rain will be on the east side of it, where we'll be early in the day on Saturday, and then that will start to shift as we'll be on the backside by Saturday evening. And then on Sunday, as that cold front finally moves right over our area, we are expecting drier air to follow right behind it, and it will be cool as well. It's not going to feel quite as humid, but right now it is quite humid. Dew points still in the upper 60s, and they will stay in the 60s and 70s for tomorrow. So it's going to be another muggy day, but because of the cloud cover and also the rain chances, temperatures will only warm up into the mid to upper 70s. There will be occasional thunderstorms as well, but we are expecting it to end by the weekend. Our future radar is showing some heavy rain off and on for tonight into early tomorrow, and it looks like tomorrow is going to be pretty much a washout during the day as we see these showers and thunderstorms lasting through the evening hours. But then around 1 o'clock in the morning, it looks like all this will be migrating to the east. That cold front comes through and it will drag that drier air in. So we're going to enjoy a little bit more sunshine on Sunday. And then early next week, more seasonal temperatures. It won't be quite as humid. And so we're going to enjoy that for a couple of days before the humidity returns. Scattered showers and thunderstorms for tonight. Lows will be in the mid 60s. Highs tomorrow only in the upper 70s. 77 degrees in Elmira, 78 in Corning, and 74 degrees in Perkinsville. Here's a look at your extended forecast. Mostly cloudy conditions. It will be humid on Sunday with highs around 77, 83 degrees on Monday. The humidity level will start to increase along with those temperatures, so we'll be in the mid-80s on Tuesday, which is seasonal for this time of year. We have another cold front that will come through, bringing the possibility of rain on Tuesday night into early Wednesday, and those temperatures will be dropping. So our highs for the second half of the week will be in the upper 70s, and notice those overnight lows will also drop as well, and that's an indication of drier air moving in, allowing those temperatures to bottom out in the 50s from Wednesday through your Friday.
According to new data from the CDC, last year, drug overdose deaths in the United States hit the highest number ever recorded, and experts say it's no coincidence the record was reached during the pandemic. Mandy Gaither has more in today's Health Minute.
It's a grim milestone. In 2020, more than 93,000 people died from drug overdoses, nearly a 30% increase, hitting the highest number ever recorded by the CDC in a 12-month period.
It's just a horrible tragedy, compounding the tragedy of the pandemic.
Inappropriate use of opioids was behind most of the overdose deaths, and some experts believe it's no coincidence this record was reached in 2020.
We know that the pandemic caused so much stress, trauma, grief, and that contributed to the desperation people feel, the use of drugs, and ultimately to overdose.
Dr. Joshua Sharfstein with Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health says other factors include the drug supply destabilizing, allowing fentanyl to continue to take over in different parts of the country, and the pandemic made it hard to get drug treatment and services.
We know things that work for addiction and overdose, and we need to do more of them. We need to invest in those strategies in order to see the results.
Dr. Sharfstein says there also needs to be a focus on minorities, disproportionately affected by both COVID-19 and drug overdoses.
Communities of color are being hit very hard with the steepest rise in the number of overdose deaths, and I think that is linked to the pandemic.
But Dr. Sharfstein says with pandemic recovery, there's hope. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
In a first surgery of its kind in North America, Duke University Hospital transplanted a new type of artificial heart into a patient. Duke University is one of 3 transplant centers selected for the FDA study of the new technology. Brian Mims has details.
The surgery took place Monday, lasting about 8 hours. That's the artificial heart, created by CarMat, a company specializing in heart implant technologies. The patient, 39-year-old Matthew Moore of Brunswick County. In June, he was transferred to Duke with advanced disease of both of his heart chambers. He deteriorated rapidly. A traditional heart transplant became too risky. Dr. Jacob Schroeder is one of the surgeons.
You know, the surgery itself is something that you'll rarely see. Essentially, what you do is you actually remove both the left and right ventricles and then place the artificial heart in its place.
The CarMat device supports both chambers and includes valves made from bovine tissue. It's powered by batteries outside the patient. The principal investigator of the device at Duke, Dr. Carmelo Milano, also performed the surgery and says his patient is doing very well.
The device is meant to help patients that have end-stage or severe failure of both the right side of the heart, or the right ventricle, and the left ventricle.
Current technology, namely a left ventricular assist device, supports just one chamber of the heart. The device is not supposed to be permanent. It serves as a stopgap for the most critical patients awaiting a heart transplant. But
we expect that people could live for years with this device, theoretically. Our goal is, of course, to transplant Mr. Moore as soon as he's ready. So I'm hoping that in 3-4 months, maybe even less, that we'll be ready to transplant him.
The patient and his wife, Rachel, who's also a nurse, are foster parents who just recently adopted a 2-year-old foster son.
There's no other explanation than our faith in God and every step that has happened since then.
Her husband is recovering in the hospital. If he keeps doing well, he'll be sent home to await a real heart.
A miraculous story about survival. An Oregon man was lost in the wilderness for 17 days. He said he did whatever he could to survive so that he could see his wife again. David Ochoa has his story.
But I wanted one more day. I wanted to get home to see her and so many others. I just wanted one more day.
Harry Burley got lost on a routine fishing trip near Twin Lakes in May when he decided to dash a trail.
Now it's time to go back. So I turn around and it's dark.
He quickly realized he'd be out there overnight. He found a log and some bark to use as shelter. He went looking for water but fell off a log, hit his head, and started bleeding.
And in an instant, everything became very serious. This was no longer just doing a hike.
Burley spent the next 2 weeks just doing what he could to survive. He used his pack and underwear as a beanie. He made a fire by using a magnifier his father-in-law gave him 40 years earlier. He ate bugs, drank dirty water off of trees and leaves, and even drank his own urine. The last couple of days, he says he accepted that he was going to die.
But it wasn't sad and there was no fear. There was a complete acceptance.
But then a miracle happened.
A big bellow.
I get a phone call and it's the deputy, and I had, so I'm going, okay, something's here, and silence, and he says, I've got some good news, and then, okay, and he says, and Harry's alive, and then I just broke down crying.
A search and rescue team had finally found him. They took him to Riverbend Hospital in Springfield, where he stayed for 15 days. He was malnourished, dehydrated, hypothermic, and had a blockage in his digestive tract.
My body was beat beyond what I thought it could give. My mind was stretched beyond what I thought I could do. But my life spark, that loving energy that we have within us, was filled.
Microsoft is giving the decades-old virtual assistant Clippy a second life. Clippy debuted in Windows 97 as a small paperclip to help Microsoft Office users. It got the boot 10 years later in Office 2007. After a 14-year hiatus, Microsoft says it will replace its standard paperclip with an image of Clippy. Microsoft teased the return in a tweet, saying if it got 20,000 likes, it would make the switch. It's the love story we didn't know we needed. A mated pair of geese couldn't stand to be separated after an injury left one of them in need of medical care. Jeannie Mose has the story of the goose couple who are a true example of in sickness and in health.
They always say geese mate for life, but these two mated through sickness and health.
This was the first time we ever had an animal come to visit one of our patients.
Staff at the New England Wildlife Center on Cape Cod noticed one of a pair of wild geese that lived nearby limping and falling over. They discovered 2 fractures on his foot requiring surgery. But as they prepared to sedate the goose they named Arnold,
we heard sort of a faint tapping at the clinic door, and we turned around and we're all pretty shocked to see that his mate had waddled up onto the porch and was, kind of furiously trying to get into the clinic.
Don't worry, he's in good hands.
under the watchful eye of Arnold's mate, the surgery began to repair the damage possibly caused by a snapping turtle.
I kid you not, she stood there the entire time and actually could watch the procedure going on. Was really watching him like a hawk, or like a goose, I guess.
45 minutes later, the surgery complete. They moved Arnold right in front of the doors. They gave him oxygen. And when Arnold fully woke up, his mate began grooming him. They had to amputate a digit, but Arnold should be able to live normally in a few weeks. Meanwhile, his mate comes and goes, using the clinic lawn as a hospital cafeteria, and even picking at Arnold's meals. Ain't love grand, wrote one commenter, and they lived happily ever after, posted another. Talk about a love story. This one's worth honking about. Jeannie Mose, New York.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight. The debate is over. Laughing till you cry is officially the most popular emoji in the world. Software maker Adobe surveyed more than 7,000 people across several countries. The LOL face ranked #1. The thumbs up emoji came in second, followed by the red heart emoji, the flirtatious wink and kiss, and sad face with a tear rounded out the top 5. Based on the report, 90% of emoji users believe the modern-day hieroglyphs make it easier for them to express themselves. More than half say emojis positively impact their mental health. And from everyone here, we're sending you a big red heart. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a good night.